I'm Kat and I'm back. Wow. Okay, Game of Thrones. Still talking about different theories and ideas. Something that came to my mind after I watched season 6, episode 5, and I thought, wow, that's really telling. Um, that's timelines and time travel. So, if you know a little bit about the history of Game of Thrones, you know what the timeline is for the back events where the wall was created and the others came in, the long night and the long winter, etc. And if you're not 100% sure, I suggest you go over to Civilization X, and they have a great video that has the little timeline of events in Westerosi history. For mine, I'm going to give a brief outline of that and talk about how the timeline got blown out of the water in episode 5. So, in the timeline, first is the Dawn Age. The children of the forest are living in Westerosi, and it's all awesome. And then the first men come across the land bridge, and they have a war with the children of the forest that lasts for several thousand years. Eventually, these two make an agreement. And where the children will live in the forest and the first men will have everything else, and they won't cut down, the first men won't cut down the were trees, the sacred trees, blah blah blah, everything's awesome. And then oopsie, here comes the long night and the long winter, and the others come down, and then Azor Ahai comes and he helps push them back, and the wall is built. Bran the Builder or somebody builds the wall, and it's imbued with magic, so the others have to stay above it. And then the Andals invade, and they proceed to do the same thing as the first men did. And eventually, Aegon Targaryen comes with his 3 dragons and invades Westerosi and becomes the king with his 2 sister wives. So the thing that blew the timeline kind of was the little thing that Bran saw, where the children of the forest were the people that created the others. Now think about this. There's an agreement before the others came down and invaded Westeros. Supposedly there was an agreement with the children of the forest about who was going to live where. Now either, as history sometimes happens or is written down or remembered, these things are not written down in the actual order that it happened. So maybe, the children of the forest created the others beforehand, and then Azor Ahai came, and then there was finally an agreement with the children of the forest, and then they went and helped build the wall and put it up there as part of the agreement. But I don't think so. I don't think the timeline screwed up. What I think it actually tells us is that either all or some of the children of the forest went back against their agreement with the first men. So remember, the first men war, they made an agreement who was going to live where, and then the others came. So some faction of the children of the forest did not believe in that. And if you're watching the episode, that's spoiler here, so you're watching the episode, Leaf is telling Bran that we had to do it when he saw the, when he saw the thing. He's the thing where they make the others. Leaf says we had to do it because the men were just, growing so fast and they were using all the resources, so we had to do something to stop them. So what I think that tells you is that after the agreement, men were still, populating exponentially the Westerosi, or the planet in general. And so some faction of the children of the forest decided that they needed to have a nuclear option. And they created their nuclear option in the others. And there's some aspects of it that George R. R. Martin talks about the others and the children of the forest being kind of like the Seelie or the Sith, or the She, however you pronounce it, who are like the fairies of Irish and Scottish folklore. And one thing we know about the fairy folk from these folklore is that there's the Seelie and the Unseelie, or the light and the dark fairies. And what happens is that the fairies, after in Irish mythology, make their agreement with man, and they're going to live in the mounds. By the way, that's what she means, are dwellers in the mounds or of the mounds. That not all of the fairies agreed that this was the right way to go. So the Unseelie, or the light ones, were like, yeah. So they're friends with men, and they hang out with men, and they don't just interact, but they intermarry and have children with men, children of the forest, Cranach men, some of the Starks, for instance, in Westerosi. This is what happens there. And so that's what happens in the Irish mythology. But the Unseelie split from the Unseelie, so there's a disagreement over who's going to rule, who's going to sit on the fairy throne, and then there's a disagreement about this agreement with men, because the Unseelie fairies were like, this agreement sucks. We're going to live underground? Why would we live underground? There was all this greatness, and we have magic and all this other stuff that we should be able to, duke it out with the men. We should have got the better deal. And men are like lesser beings. That's the other aspect of it. The men are lesser beings, and there's no way they should have gave up the above ground to the men. So the Unseelie, the dark ones, they're not all evil. They just have a different idea of what should have freaking happened with that agreement. And so they don't really dig humans too much. The Unseelie fairy, they might take them as pets, kind of like the others with the dead or whatever. Or the children with Merlin / Bloodraven in the tree. So, and I think that's what we see happening here. I think that the children of the forest split into two factions. One was good with the agreement. The other one was not. And one of the other reasons why I think that's true, that there was a split, is because when you think about the wall being built, so if the timeline is still true, you just don't know the part about who created the others, then after Azor Ahai helped drive the others back to the north, Bran the builder or whomever built the wall, and the children of the forest imbued it with magic to keep the others on the other side. Well, guess who else is on the other side? Well, there was Leaf. Wasn't she on the other side? She was trapped there in the magic, behind the veil that separates the magic from the mundane world, right? She's trapped there on the other side. And so were some other children of the forest. So what does that tell you? Well, obviously, that split. So there was a split. Because the children of the forest on the south side of that wall didn't totally disappear. Nobody knows what happened to them, but the idea is they probably intermarried with the humans, right? So there you go. There's your timeline and the children of the forest. I did want to talk about time travel, but obviously I think that's going to have to be a separate video. So what do you think? Two factions of the children of the forest, and the one created the nuclear option and ended up sealed on the other side of the wall with their Frankenstein creations. That's it for now. Thank you very much, and see you later.